Hey folks, welcome to the Wednesday show. Hope y'all are having a good day. The physical editions of the Amazon edition of King Leper are out. I have linked them in the chat. So you can order the paperback or the hardback in Europe or wherever you happen to be located across the globe. It is very similar. In fact, the interior is the same as the Kickstarter edition. The cover will be blue instead of green. The hardback is not jacketed. It is a laminated hardback, so it won't have the dust jacket. It'll just be a laminate hardback. And the reason is because that's what Amazon does for their print on demand. So that's what's easiest to do and to distribute. You got something special if you backed the Kickstarter. What else? Excuse me. So there's that. The ebook lands on Friday, so you could order the physical now, and it'll get there roughly at the same time, so you can enjoy reading it. And of course, if you did get the Kickstarter edition and happened to read it, a review would be really helpful. You can drop a couple stars down there on Amazon, and that actually helps me a lot to sell the book, basically to people who don't know me, right? To see that there's stars on all three of the books in the series helps a lot. Okay. Ozzy Osbourne has died, so that's the big news. Not much to say about that. They didn't. Nobody's given any kind of cause of death. He wasn't in good health. He apparently had some sort of Parkinson's disease, and had been suffering from that for quite a while. So he couldn't actually get up and stand for his final performance with Black Sabbath and with whatever solo band he'd put together for that final performance. I think Zakk Wylde and some other big players. So, it's not all that unexpected. It's sad, right? But it's not something that is shocking. He just, he's 76 and he lived a pretty hard life. Ozzy Osbourne's an interesting case because, I'm not going to speak ill of the dead, and really there's not that much ill to say of him. He was pretty well liked by most of the people that knew him, with the exception of a lot of the people that worked with him early on in his solo career. Although that they have come out and said very positive statements, there was a lot of bad blood because of management decisions and things like that, which goes along with the business. Right? It's kind of how he ended up getting fired from Black Sabbath in the first place, is his personal issues have caused him a lot of trouble. Ozzy Osbourne was a guy, I think he's a perfect example of, the ecclesiastical claim. The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. But luck happens to all of them, the whole list. Ozzy Osbourne's a guy who, if you were to look at him as just by himself, there actually probably wouldn't be much to say. He was not what I would consider a great singer on a technical level. He had a very characteristic voice. So that's where something actually is, that when Ozzy sings, it's Ozzy Osbourne singing. And that's something that's easy to underrate. But he's not a technically great singer. He happened to go to high school with Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler. So he got into a band with them and ended up becoming a star because of the success of that band. And that band produced a really unique product at a very critical time in the development of Western popular music. So he was part of crafting that sound. He wasn't the lyricist. He didn't write the music. So his contribution was being the front man. As a solo artist, he was able to, because of the success of Black Sabbath, surround himself with really incredible talent right from the get-go, including Randy Rhoads. And that is something that I think is probably the biggest factor in determining Ozzy Osbourne's success post Black Sabbath, is he always had the best people around him. He had the best talent, that you could get. The best guitar player, whoever the best guitar player is, chances are he's working with Ozzy Osbourne or has worked with him. If it wasn't Randy Rhoads, it was Jake E. Lee, who is an incredible player, or it was Zakk Wylde. You had Gus G from Firewind and Mystic Prophecy. It was in the band at various points, right? Like great guitar players, great bass players, great drummers like Randy Castillo. You had all of these amazing people working with Ozzy Osbourne. So even at the height of Ozzy's like addiction and alcoholism, where he was infamous for like biting heads off of bats and like being a wreck, he was surrounded by such a high talent that it just continued to propel him forward. And the craziness of his lifestyle only added to the mystique. It's kind of like Motley Crue, same idea. Which I think in the Motley Crue autobiography, The Dirt, they mentioned that like they got Ozzy Osbourne to snort a line of ants at one point. So it tells you kind of where he was at. He's gotten cleaned up multiple times, and he's fallen back into problems multiple times. He lives next door to Pat Boone. And Pat Boone had nothing but good things to say about him. He's like, he was a great neighbor. He was a really funny guy. Everybody liked him. Basically, he's a guy who facilitated greatness around himself somehow. Whether that was from like divine providence or just luck or something about his personality that we don't always hear in the music. It's something that's like off the stage, is he's able to like get people to revolve around him that are amazing musicians that help him to make this amazing music. He had Lemmy write music for him, right? So he used all of his connections in music to get like really great songwriters to write music for him. And Lemmy, of course, being a great lyricist and a great songwriter in general, was able to contribute to that. He was able to like patch things up with old friends. He had like Geezer Butler playing on several of his solo albums, I think, at the same time that Geezer was playing with Dio and Tony in Black Sabbath, right? So, and then into the 90s, like I'm going to have a festival that's me, that's the Ozfest. I've been to Ozfest, right? I'm going to have a heavy metal festival. Like the fact that he was able to do that is really crazy when you think about it. But it all worked. Like somehow it all worked. And he had this fabulous career and all this money. And it's not because he was a great vocalist or a great songwriter or a great lyricist. He was none of those things. And I, having seen him perform, do I think he was a great performer? I think he was a good performer. I actually do. I think he had a really great interface with the audience. That's for sure. But him as a focal point for kind of surrounding himself with greatness is what allowed him to have as much success as he had in his life. And that success extended beyond music, right? He was able to be married twice and have kids. He's had 5 children, and that's a big success. And the children have, for the most part, not come out terribly, right? They've had struggles, right? But in general, they were okay. I would say it's Ozzy's wife, Sharon, that gets all of the hate, not Ozzy himself. He's too likable. He's too likable a person. But it's Sharon. Like, she's really hated in the metal community. And I wouldn't say for bad reason. Like, she has a reputation, not a good reputation for, like, being good to people. There was a point where they replaced all the original drum and bass parts on Blizzard of Oz when they re-released it back in like 2002. And with like Rob Trujillo, and I don't remember who was playing drums at that time. But that was a really messed up thing to do. And he apologized for it and blamed Sharon. And when he blamed Sharon, I'm like, you know what? I believe that, because that's a thing Sharon would do just to avoid paying royalties to these people that she kicked out of Ozzy's band in the early 80s for whatever reason, probably because they cost too much money or something, and paying them continued royalties. Like, it's just, they contributed to those songs. Shouldn't they be able to collect those royalties? Like, no, we're going to pay union wage to Rob Trujillo and have him do it. Rob wasn't in Metallica at that time when he recorded those bass parts. So that's a kind of a messed up thing to do, but it's something that is an example of how, even like when I talk about, it's like, well, clearly, somebody is successful because they're really talented. No, that wasn't him. Someone's successful because they're the most virtuous. Well, it's definitely not Ozzy Osbourne. Someone's successful because they're the most creative. Well, I don't think that's him. Someone's successful because they are the most moral. No. It's because they manage their relationships the best. Not even, no. But somehow he managed to cruise through life and have be one of the most successful rock singers of all time. I don't know. The race is not to the swiftest, nor the battle to the strong, right? But he was always in a place and time that was able to capitalize on that. So, is Ozzy going to be missed? I think, we got to see that final concert is at the end of a long decline. I think he'll be missed because there won't be more Ozzy Osbourne records with Zakk Wylde and all these other great musicians helping to contribute to them and build those up. But those great musicians are still around, still playing. So we'll still have echoes of what Ozzy was doing. It's just like when Dio died, right? There's a big hole that's there, but there's still tons of great music that's out there. And it's okay to pause and be like, yeah, look at all the great things that came out of that, and be just thankful for those, A metal junkie being married only twice might as well be considered monogamy. Yeah. Well, apparently there was a lot of drama with that because Sharon might have, the legend is Sharon broke up the marriage and stuff, Didn't Ozzy have a mistress for several years with Sharon? I heard it was a hairdresser, but they reconciled, which probably means that Sharon knew it was best for her bank account to continue being Ozzy's manager. And to her credit, she's probably a great manager. I think she's probably very much responsible for a lot of Ozzy's financial and career success post Black Sabbath. I think he wasn't in a place where he could manage himself, certainly in the early 80s. And so as much as she's hated, I think she's probably responsible for a lot of his success. Right. If he hadn't been able to assemble that first band for Blizzard of Oz, I don't think we'd be talking about him. And if he hadn't been able to successfully replace Randy Rhoads, I don't think we'd be talking about him today. So anyway, the main thing that comes out from people who knew him is that everybody liked him. Pat Boone lived next door to him and liked him. Everybody thought he was a funny and genuine person. He was just a normal guy. And so that probably went a long way towards helping him to repair things, is he probably didn't hold on to grudges that bad. He had a grudge against Black Sabbath for a long time. They used to burn this effigy of Ronnie James Dio on stage, or beat him up or something, which is in terrible taste. But I think he got over that once he sobered up a little bit. Yeah. I think a lot of Ozzy's later albums, I think they're good metal albums in general. It's hard to be as legendary as Blizzard of Oz or Diary of a Madman or even Bark at the Moon. Right? Because of time and place. I don't think Zakk Wylde's a great guitar player, but I don't think he writes things that were as cutting edge as the things that they were doing in the early 80s. With Randy Rhoads. He's a really, really good metal guitarist, and he writes really good riffs. And that's what I think is good about the later Ozzy albums, is there's really good guitar riffs on them, decent songs. None of them really pop out and make you remember things like Crazy Train or Diary of a Madman or Bark at the Moon. But it's just solid. It's just solid work, right? I could say a lot of the same things about Dio's later records. Say most of Dio's stuff post Vivian Campbell. Those first two Dio records are legendary. Holy Diver and Last in Line. You know, they're really top tier records. They were very cutting edge at the time. They were really well done. Sacred Heart was okay. Sacred Heart was still good. I think a lot of those albums after Viv left the band or was fired, I'm not sure how that went down, but after he joined Def Leppard, like, there's really good albums in there. There's like Strange Highways is such a cool album, but it's so esoteric. Like Dio did this kind of esoteric metal thing in the 90s with like Angry Machines and Strange Highways. Lock Up the Wolves to an extent too, which was another cool album. But they're not as memorable as those early ones because they just don't have that. They don't have that mix of like that catchy pop tune sound and then really new things that were very novel at the time. It's just not there. You don't have any songs that are like Rainbow in the Dark or Holy Diver. You know, they're just not there. Magica, it's a cool album. Craig Goldie's a great guitar player, but I don't remember a lot from Magica. I liked Master of the Moon that had Craig Goldie on it again. It's a good kind of doom metal album. I remember a couple songs from it. I remember Killing the Dragon a lot more. But these were, you know, they're good albums. But we don't remember them as much. And I feel the same way about most of Ozzy Osbourne's later releases. The last album that I remember people really talking about was Osmosis, that had Geezer Butler on it and Zakk Wylde. And I don't like that album. I don't like Osmosis. It's probably one of my least favorite Ozzy Osbourne albums. It's just, I think at the time it was like a good sound, but I go back and listen to it now and I don't like the production on it. I don't like the songs. I really don't like the lyrics. You know, I'm just not a fan of that album personally. I think the later stuff that's just more metal, I like more. It's just better to listen to, you know. Least favorite Ozzy album is No Rest for the Wicked. Stupid songs except for Miracle Man, which is decent. Yeah, I can't really remember them all. I like the Ozzy and Black Sabbath, but he's not my favorite Black Sabbath vocalist. That belongs to Tony Martin and Glenn Hughes. My favorite's Dio. I like Tony Martin as a second, Ozzy third. I'm not a big fan of like the Glenn Hughes album. It's not terrible. It's not as bad, I think, as we remember it. It's just coming after Mob Rules. Like Mob Rules is this amazing album, and then you just Born Again. It's just not up to that level. It's just not. It feels like an album from 1975 after you've been progressing and getting heavier and faster. It's like it just doesn't work. But it's okay. It's not a terrible album. I like Tear. Tear is so my favorite Black Sabbath album is probably Heaven and Hell. I like Tear a lot. I like Mob Rules a lot. I really like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath and Volume 4. And the original, self-titled, is really cool. Yeah, Osmosis is from those 90s, the 90s period where every album had to have 12 tracks or at minimum 10, right? In the 80s and before, albums would have 8 songs because you had roughly 40 minutes to put on a vinyl. You could maybe put a little bit more, but 40 minutes was about 40 to 45 minutes was about how long a record was before you had to press a second record. Like you had to do the White Album and have a double album. So I felt every album is tighter with 8 songs than with 12. And it's really rare to have an album that has more than 8 songs and is a killer album. Like every song is good and you remember the album as a whole as a work of art. It's something about revising by removing. And I actually think about this with Stevie Ray Vaughan. You can get like the special edition of something like Couldn't Stand the Weather. Couldn't Stand the Weather was his second album, which I believe came out in 1982. It's a really good album, great blues album. But if you get like the special edition, there's a whole second CD of stuff he recorded for that album. So they recorded about like 15 songs, 16 songs, and they picked 8 of them that went on the record. And some of the ones that they kept out, you'd be like, I can't believe they left this off. It's so good. And maybe it shows up on the next album, or maybe it shows up on a compilation years later. They just never put it out because they had to pare down. The band was so good and the band knew so much music. They just went into the studio and played like 15 songs and then just with the producer picked the best 8. And it was the same thing with Texas Flood. There was like 10 songs that came out on Texas Flood. I think 10, which was a lot, but there was a couple of short songs. And then there was like 6 or 8 more that they had recorded. And it was recorded like in an empty warehouse on like portable equipment. The band just set up and played live, and that's the album. That's Texas Flood. They're a little bit higher production value, but Texas Flood sounds amazing. A little bit higher production value for Couldn't Stand the Weather, but they cut it down to those 8 songs, and that's why the album is so good. And I think also that's why Soul to Soul is maybe not as good as the first 2 Stevie Ray Vaughan albums, is Soul to Soul had songs on it that they had recorded twice before and not put on an album. And then they put them on that album. And the truth was, they were good live songs, but they just weren't up to the snuff of what they needed to have on an album for like classic number 3. So anyway, Osmosis feels bloated because it's from that era. Everything had 12 songs. Black Album had 12 songs. Of course, Guns N' Roses did 2 albums. They were released on the same day. Yeah, every album from the 90s had like 12 songs on it. And Super Unknown had 15. I think. 15 tracks. Holy crap. That's a complaint that I usually have about those, is that they put everything that they recorded on the session on the album, and they did no selection. If you can only record 8 songs, you really focus on those good 8 songs as well, so that they're just higher quality. I think, it's like if Metallica wanted to have an album that was as good as the stuff they did in the 80s, it would be you are only allowed to record 8 songs. You have to pick which 8, and those are the 8 you're recording, and you have to make them as good as possible. There's only room for 8. If they cut themselves down to 8 songs, they'd have another great album. Because I felt this about every Metallica album that's come out in the 90s onward. There's 4 too many songs or more, right? If you took the Black Album and cut 4 songs out of it, it would be legendary. Or even just 3 songs. I could probably name the songs. Hold on. Yeah, Guns N' Roses, the Use Your Illusion thing. They were Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. Let me look at the track listing for Black Album. Okay, let's look at the tracks. I'll tell you which ones, because I'm not remembering all of them offhand. Okay, so here's the track listing. Inner Sandman, keep that. Sad But True, keep that. Holier Than Thou, keep that. Oh, nope. Unforgiven, have to keep that. Wherever I May Roam, got to keep that one. That one's great. Don't Tread on Me, you got to toss that one out. Through the Never, you keep that one. Nothing Else Matters. There's your like second soft track. Of Wolf and Man, we're at 7, and I would say maybe My Friend in Misery. There's your 8, and you cut those other 4, and you'd have absolutely amazing album. Load, same idea. Load had 14 songs. It needed to have 8. I'll tell you which ones they should have kept. And the thing is, those 8 songs would have been better. If they had cut 6 songs, then you would have had 8 remaining songs, and they would have worked on them more and made them better. So let's look at Load. We got Ain't My Bitch. I would keep that one. It's kind of cute. I would keep Until It Sleeps, King Nothing, all the singles. Hero of the Day, Bleeding Me. I would keep Wasting My Hate, Mama Said, and I would keep Outlaw Torn. Okay, so there's your 8. The rest of them can get tossed. I actually think if you were to cut 5 tracks out of Reload would be better than Load. Because I think you could have improved some of the... I think you could have massively improved some of the songs that were there by focusing on them. Fuel, you keep that one. Memory Remains, keep that one. Just keep all... There's 4 singles, you keep all of those. Fuel, Memory Remains, I would keep Devil's Dance, Unforgiven 2. Better Than You is a bad song, so I'm going to toss it, but it's the first 3 minutes are good. So that's kind of like they could have made it better. Then, but I'm going to leave it off. So there we're at 4. I would keep Where the Wild Things Are, Prince Charming, Fixer, Low Man's Lyric. That's 8. There's your 8 songs for that. Yeah. Yeah, so those are the 8 songs for that one. And that would have been, people have been like, oh man, another amazing Metallica album full of interesting songs that kick ass. You know, it would have been like, oh, you know, they're doing more of a hard rock thing with this one. There's like 2 soft tracks on each of those, but like Attitude, I mean, Fixer is such a cool song. I've never heard him play it live, I don't think, but it is a really cool song. Same thing with Where the Wild Things Are. Devil's Dance is good. Has that cool like bass line to it. So it's good stuff. What was the next? Saint Anger, I don't know about that. Garaging. Anyway, you get my point. In the 90s, they loaded way too much crap on albums. And I felt that way with later Metallica albums too. There's just, you know, here's a double album. I'm like, you should have made a single album and then saved what riffs you had and made a second single album later. So, just my thoughts on that. But yeah, Ozzy made a big impact. Yeah, not much to say. People really liked him. So, what else we have going on for the week? I thought there was something else interesting that happened, but I didn't see it. I can do a little bit of live writing today, or we could do some live music production. I could do a little piece on that thing for you all. Did you comment on the new Grok AI companion? I didn't really pay attention to that, but it looked like it's just like an animated, there's like an animated, you could do an anime girl of Grok. That doesn't remotely interest me. That just slows down the information that I want from Grok, so I probably would never use it. But if you like that, that's, you know, cool. I'm glad you like it, I guess. I'm glad you like it. I stopped listening to Metallica after Garage Inc. That's probably a good call. Garage Inc. was good. Saint Anger was bad. Death Magnetic was bad. Hardwired to Self-Destruct was okay. 72 Seasons was okay. You know, they just, my same complaints with those, like Hardwired to Self-Destruct, they needed to cut like four or 5 songs out of it, and then it probably would be better. Megadeth has a new album coming out in the fall. Yes, with Timu Mantisari from Winter Sun playing guitar on it. That'll be cool. Timu from Winter Sun. That'll be cool. He's a fabulous guitar player. He's a great player. James Laminzo on bass. Who's playing drums? Chris Adler? Or no. Who am I thinking of? Who plays drums in Megadeth? Oh, Dirk Verbauer. Dirk Verburen. Dirk Verburen. There we go. He's a really good player. I was thinking of Chris Adler, who was from Lamb of God originally, and he chose to stay with Lamb of God rather than play with Megadeth. And then he got fired from Lamb of God when he developed focal dystonia. He developed focal dystonia. So it's like a nerve disorder, I guess. There's a guitar player I talked about named Apostolos Paraskavis. He got focal dystonia and had to basically relearn how to play guitar. He teaches composition at Berklee College of Music, or he did. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I need to maybe give him a call and reconnect with him and see how he's doing. But yeah, he developed focal dystonia, which made it impossible for him to continue playing. And that's too bad because Chris Adler was a great player. And I think there was like a lot of personal fallout with the rest of the guys in Lamb of God as a result. Like they just they fired him because he couldn't play. Oh yeah, check this out. Where am I? Yeah, here's the music. I got the cats, Simba and Eva cat. Just enjoying life there on the patio. I recorded this in winter. The heater's on. There's no leaves on the trees. Look at that. Oh, you guys can see it. There we go. It's like no leaves on the trees here. It's weird to look at it now because I go look at that now and it's just like this. It's a wall of green. You can't see any sky from that position. You don't see any sky back there right now. It's only green. It's a giant wall of forest green. Pretty cool. Dave Mustaine's always got it. You know, Dave's a professional in ways that people don't like sometimes, but he's always able to like get in the studio and get it done. And he knows what he's doing. So I'm sure it'll be another solid Megadeth album. Not all of them have been good. Megadeth's come out with some albums I really don't like 13. Super Collider. I didn't like either one of those. What else? Risk. I think Risk is underrated. I think going back and listening to those albums like Risk has such a unique sound. Like it's different, and that makes it worth listening to. If you're like taking a gander at the whole Megadeth discography, I think Risk stands out as an interesting album. Cryptic Writings less so. Cryptic Writings felt more like a pop album than Risk did to me. Yeah. I think Risk is underrated. I think it had a lot of really catchy tunes. And Dave Mustaine sounded his best as a vocalist on Risk. The one that I actually think they fell off on was The World Needs a Hero. I went back and listened to The World Needs a Hero a while back, and like I hadn't listened to it in years. And it's like, oh yeah, you know, I liked this album a lot when it came out, and there was like 2 good songs on the album. And the rest were just really phoned in. They just sounded very, very phoned in. There just wasn't anything to them. They weren't interesting at all. There's like Return to Hangar and like A Thousand Times Goodbye, I think. Those were really good songs. And the rest were just really forgettable. Everything felt very phoned in, like they just kind of threw the album together. And they had this idea of like, the Megadeth that Dave wanted to do was the Megadeth on Rust in Peace, but the band wasn't clicking the way that it did back in 1990. So it just didn't come off as a great product. The songs were just not as good. It sounded like they were rushed. There wasn't a lot of energy behind them. They just weren't good. And that was the best. That was the last album they came out with for a while. Because Dave Mustaine had like an injury and had to relearn to play and all this kind of stuff, and was like in rehab, and then he had like a lawsuit with David Ellefson over the band name, and then he came back with basically a solo album that had Megadeth on it. That was I think The System Has Failed, and System Has Failed is a really decent studio album. It had Vinny Colaiuta on drums. I remember that. It's a great drumming. But I don't really remember too many of the songs. I just remember it was like this metal attack. It just was way more metal than anything they did in the 90s. You know, it was just, and I think my friend Daryl told me at the time it's basically a Pro Tools album, right? Which was kind of new at the time, to like just have a track by track recording everything in Pro Tools and doing it that way, composing in Pro Tools. But it makes sense when I hear it now. I was like, oh yeah, this is a Pro Tools album. And now we're just used to Pro Tools albums. We're just used to albums where the band has no like interconnected vibe at all. Everything's like a click-tracked, very artificial product. And we're just used to that now. That's an interesting thing to talk about too, is that we've gotten used to certain production techniques to the point where we don't really know what those production techniques are really supposed to be like without, or what production's supposed to sound like without those things. One of them is the fact that like we will work in whatever your DAW is, Pro Tools or Logic or Ableton or Reaper, whatever it is, and you're working in a musical fashion, measure by measure, programming drums, programming time changes, playing with a click track. You're doing all of this stuff that makes it really, really regimented. To the point where the band may, and I know that like even Metallica, which is really a live band, that they do this to an extent because they're like, we hadn't really played this song. We'd never played it together. Like we worked it up in the studio and we never played it together until now. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. You know, they never played the song live. They did Pro Tools type recordings for it. But when you hear a band that like vibes live, like it's different. It hits different. Motorhead, even when they were recording with like a click, like the band vibed with each other. There was a groove to their playing. They sounded like a live band. When I go back and hear stuff from the 80s, and like the drumming was so important back then, because if your drummer wasn't maintaining good time, like the recording could fall apart. The song you wouldn't be able to track the song. But yeah, you go back and listen to Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath. Man, that band sounds tight. Like they sound like a live band. The production sounds live, but just better than live. It's just an amazingly produced album. What's another good example? Something that's not so clicky from the pre-click track days. Actually, if you listen to Sonata Arctica's first album, Ecliptica, there's no click track, and they speed up and slow down in songs. But the album has such they went and re-recorded this album. Not a good idea in my opinion. The re-recording of it just lacks. It just sounds completely dead on arrival. It just sounds completely fake and dead. And they also detuned, like everything's a step down or maybe even a step and a half down. Like they went down to C sharp tuning, and it just sounds bad. It's not actually. It doesn't sound bad. It sounds sterile. There's a click track. Everything's really clicky. Everything is quantized. Everything is auto-tuned. Like everything sounds fake. And you go back and listen to that original from 1999. There's this raw energy on the tape that just is amazing. And you can do this. You can go listen to the original Ecliptica and then listen to the re-recording of Ecliptica. And man, the original is just so much better than what they re-recorded. And it's wild to me that the band bothered to re-record an entire album and never really sat and listened to it and thought, this isn't as good as what we did originally. Like they must have sat down and thought, this is better than what we did originally. And it was really not. It was worse on every level. In every possible way that it could be like inferior to the original product, it is. Even with like the clarity of the production, the new production sounds over maximized, over compressed. So there's no life to the sound. Whereas the original one is not so compressed. So the drums have life to them. You know, remasters are never a good idea, IMO. The more polished, the less soul. Who else did this? Manowar. Manowar went back and re-recorded 2 of their old albums. I think Kings of Metal and their first album, Battle Hymns. While I think the re-recording of Battle Hymns gains something in the quality of production, because the original had really bad production, comparatively, it loses the energy on the original recording. And I feel like the original version of Kings of Metal is just straight up better than the re-recording in every way. They did a version of Heart of Steel with an acoustic guitar instead of a piano, and that was cool. It was like different enough. But everything else just sounded worse than what they recorded in 1989 or whatever. Blind Guardian is infamous for this. What did Blind Guardian do? Did Blind Guardian re-record something? I don't remember them re-recording anything. Or just remastering it so it's worse. I don't have any Blind Guardian remaster albums. I have only original ones from whenever they came out. I heard the remaster of Sabbath's Forbidden. It sounds like a whole different album. Now that one I might be interested to listen to, because I do have the original Forbidden from 1995, and it's not very good. Good evening, Sound Engraver. Motorcycle. I actually don't like Motorcycle. Twisted Metal 3. Yeah, those soundtracks from the early 2000s. Speaking of bad remasters, Neverwinter Nights 2 Enhanced Edition is out. No new bug fixes or quality of life changes in a game that could have really used some. I thought I had an enhanced edition of that, but I guess not. Maybe that was from a million years ago. And then there was Silence was redone 4 times. Oh, that's right. They went back and re-recorded a bunch of their stuff for something. I never bought that album. I never bought that album or listened to it. Yeah, they re-recorded and then there was Silence. Yeah, Night at the Opera was the album that made Tolman Staunch, like, quit the album. Tolman quit the album. Or quit the band after that. He didn't like the direction they were going in. I like Twist in the Myth a lot better than Night at the Opera, though. So, one of the problems with remastering albums. So, this was a big thing in like the 90s, 2000s, 2010s on up, is, to me, it's always a cash grab because you're remastering an album so that you can sell it again. Most of the time, if you're doing a remix or remaster of an album, it's so that you can sell it a second time to the same people. What's the problem with that? Well, it's either you are not really improving the album that much, or you're possibly butchering it. And it never falls into a... Like, I hear Iron Maiden remasters, and I'm like, this sounds the same. And then I go and listen to, like, my original version. I'm like, I guess it's a little more compressed now. It doesn't sound better. So I don't really need to buy that remaster. The Rush remasters were all just, like, basically cleaning up the original recording, like denoising, that kind of stuff. So there's no reason, if you already had it, there was really no reason to buy the remastered version. If they were to remix and remaster And Justice for All, that might please a lot of people, but I think what makes that album special is the weird production on it. I like the production on Justice for All a lot. But, you know, that's just another example of what I'm talking about. Would that improve things? I don't know. Or you do what like Ozzy Osbourne did when he remastered his albums, is they weren't a remaster. They cut the original guitar and bass tracks out and replaced them with newly recorded tracks and kept Randy Rhoads' guitar playing and Ozzy singing from the original session because people would recognize those. But I recognized that the drums and the bass were off the second I heard those. I was like, something's wrong with this song. Something is different and wrong. And then I listened closely and I'm like, that doesn't sound like the original bass tone at all. They messed up the bass tone. It wasn't. It was a different, not only a different bass tone, it was a different bass player. It was Rob Trujillo playing on it. Absolutely butchered that stuff when they re-recorded it. There is a Queen album called Night at the Opera. There's also a Blind Guardian album called A Night at the Opera. Night at the Opera is really not my favorite Blind Guardian album. I think it's full of filler. I mean, not filler, but it just doesn't have a lot of great songs on it. It has a few songs on it that are like really killer. And then, the production is weird and I don't really care for it. I like Twisting the Myth a lot better. And Nightfall of Middle Earth is probably their best album. That, I'd say, peak Blind Guardian is probably Imaginations from the Other Side and Nightfall and Middle Earth. Those two albums are like, that's the Blind Guardian sound, as good as it can be, as creative as it could be, as touching as it could be. And after that, they have to go in a different direction. So they did Night at the Opera, and it's just not as good. Though I appreciate that Blind Guardian's always done creative stuff. Twisting the Myth was a step back towards their older sound, and in a good way, but it still had all the epic stuff, the epic feeling. What was after that? At the Edge of Time. That was a good album too. I feel like every Blind Guardian album has something worth listening to. Even that orchestral album, which I didn't really like, I think it's still worth listening to at least once. But the peak Blind Guardian is going to be those two albums, Imaginations from the Other Side and Nightfall and Middle Earth. That's peak. That's like the peak Blind Guardian output right there. Kind of like, I think every band has like a peak period where there's a crossover between their creative growth and what they already know and what they're comfortable doing. So they fall into a rhythm where they're able to do certain things really well and really consistently, but they're also able to do a lot of variations within that and do a lot of creative things added onto that. And the result will be a really high quality set of products. And then I think it's easy to lose that. And I know as an artist, you can't keep doing the same thing. It's the paradox. It's the paradox of artistry, is that if you have a big success, the smart business thing to do is just to do more of that. But that doesn't work out long-term because people get bored of hearing the same thing. There are bands that made it work, but they're probably like AC/DC. But AC/DC doesn't come out with that many albums. They only come out with albums really rarely, following like 1980. So it's just, by the time you're ready for more AC/DC and you want it to sound like AC/DC, you get more AC/DC, and it's cool. Motorhead, it's really consistent sound. But Motorhead's not like, nobody buys a Motorhead album hoping what they do is creative. And Motorhead's never really broken into the mainstream either. They maybe have had a little peak around 1980 and then they just kind of kept going for another 30 years. They're doing a Somewhere Far Beyond tour this fall with Encephalum, or Eincepharum. Is it Eincepharum or Encephalum? And Seven Kingdoms. I saw Seven Kingdoms with Blind Guardian, opening for Blind Guardian. So I would go see them again. Like, here you are again, opening for Blind Guardian, and it's great. You guys did a great job. Sabaton's very consistent. Powerwolf is very consistent. So back to my little theory on you have a peak. So Ronnie James Dio had the best peak in the history of rock music. Nobody produced albums as high a quality as Ronnie James Dio did for as many years as he did, producing as much variety and as much high quality that he did. So that starts with Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. So 1975, Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, classic rock. It's as good as anything you hear from the mid-70s. Rainbow Rising becomes like proto-prog metal. It's an album that could be on my top 10 easily. It probably is. Rainbow Rising. Long Live Rock and Roll. Pretty much just as good as what he did before. There's the 3 albums of peak with Ritchie Blackmore. And you had different people in the band for every album. So you had fresh blood kind of energizing that mix. And they were a live band. So then he left and went to Black Sabbath and recorded Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, 2 of the best metal albums ever recorded. He left, took Vinny Appice with him, got Viv Campbell, Jimmy Bain from Rainbow. So it's Jimmy Bain from Rainbow and Vinny Appice from Black Sabbath. Also his brother Carmine Appice, right? And then Viv Campbell from, I think, what was he from? Sweet Savage? An NWO BHM band. Great young guitar player. Record Holy Diver and The Last in Line. 2 of the best metal albums ever recorded. So if you look at his output between 1975 and 1985, it's 10 years of pure gold. Everything he touched was gold. So when people are like, oh, the later Dio albums are not as good as there, it's like the dude was on fire for 10 years straight of nothing but bangers. All killer, no filler, not a single track would I cut from anything he recorded between 75 and 85. Not one thing. So yeah, if this album is not as good as what came before, he couldn't keep doing the same thing forever, right? He was able, like, think of how much changed between Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow and The Last in Line. How much stylistic evolution was happening in his bands between those years. There is so much evolution, and he continued to evolve. Lock Up the Wolves went in a new direction. It just didn't, it didn't hit the way that Last in Line did, right? Strange Highways was really good. I mean, that is a great, like, esoteric doom metal album. It's awesome. If it hadn't been Dio, we'd be talking about it. Like, have you heard of this band? It's the Electric Wizard, We'd be talking about, like, one of these esoteric metal bands, like Arctic Thunder or something, But because it was Dio, you're comparing it to the highest output that he had, which was 10 years of pure gold. So it's really hard. It's really hard to keep that up forever. And you have to keep doing different things. But I always felt like Dio had a passion for his music, even if it felt very locked into one style by the time he got to the early 2000s with, like, Killing the Dragon, which was a good, solid classic metal album. It just wasn't, oh, this is new and interesting and great. It just wasn't going to hit the way that old stuff did because the time and place for that style of music had passed. What Dio probably should have gotten, who he should have gotten in the band was Kim Thale from Soundgarden. I know that actually, what he should have done is he should have done an album with Chuck Schuldiner. Chuck Schuldiner said he wanted to do a classic metal album with Ronnie James Dio before he died, and he never got to do that. If he had done an album with Chuck Schuldiner, it would have been absolutely legendary. It's really sad that never got to happen. But think about that. Like, that would have evolved. That sound would have evolved Chuck's sound and Ronnie James Dio sound, and would have produced just, like, a crazily good album. The next great album that Dio actually did was The Devil You Know with Black Sabbath, when he came back with Black Sabbath again. Like, Devil You Know was everything a Black Sabbath album, classic Black Sabbath album should be, but still had a couple new twists to it. It was good. Likewise, I think Black Sabbath kept evolving, like, up through Tear. Tear was like, after Tear, there was really nowhere for them to go in terms of evolution and stuff. For better or worse, each album by Arctic Monkeys sounds very different with completely different sound, yet still their own in some way. Same thing with Ulver. Like, Ulver, you never know what you're going to get with Ulver. What do you think of Rhapsody of Fire's work with Christopher Lee, The Magic Wizard's Dream, etc.? Oh, I like Rhapsody, yeah. The whole, like, name conflict is silly, but yeah, I like Rhapsody's music. They got Christopher Lee into recording metal, and he recorded 3 metal albums. I think he recorded one with Richie Faulkner from Judas Priest, who plays guitar in Judas Priest. And Richie Faulkner actually had a heart attack around the COVID times and was sick for a while. But yeah, Richie, and who else was on one of an Italian guitar player who was really good, did 2 of his albums. So he did an album called Charlotte. He did a Charlemagne album and then a follow-up Charlemagne album. And then I think he just did a bunch of singles before he died. And he said, I want to keep releasing singles because I don't know when I'm going to die. Is basically what he said. He goes, I don't know, but I want to give it to my fans when I can so that they can enjoy it, you know? Yeah, it's great. I like Rhapsody a lot. I like Fabio Leone's voice. I wish the band had been able to stay together better. Because we have, like, the whole Rhapsody saga is weird. Because you have Rhapsody. Supposedly, they have to change their name. So they changed it to Rhapsody of Fire. They find out later they really did have to change their name. It was basically because of some weird thing with Magic Circle Music Group, which was a management company owned by Joey DeMaio of Manowar. They had told them they needed to change the name, even though they didn't need to. So they changed it to Rhapsody of Fire. And they're like, this will represent the next evolution of the band. Then Luca Turilli, the guitar player, left, and he'd been recording solo albums the whole time anyway, too. These guys are, like, they work so much, man. These Italian guys, they're working hard. So he had Luca Turilli's Rhapsody. He did Luca Turilli, then he did Luca Turilli's Rhapsody. So there was Rhapsody of Fire and Luca Turilli's Rhapsody. Luca Turilli's Rhapsody and Luca Turilli's band had Alessandro Conti, who is the current vocalist for Twilight Force, in the band. And it's great music. It's really good. It's a lot of fun to listen to. So if you like Twilight Force, if you like Rhapsody, you'll like Luca Turilli's stuff as well. Then Fabio Leone, who had been in Rhapsody of Fire, quit Rhapsody. Well, I don't know if he even quit it. He joined Luca Turilli's Rhapsody, and they did Turilli-Leone Rhapsody. And that was a cool album. I really liked that album. I'm trying to remember what it was called. But it was not fantasy at all. It was like prog metal. It was really cool. They did a Rhapsody 20th anniversary tour with Luca Turilli and Fabio Leone, and I think... who do they have on drums? So that left... is Rhapsody of Fire still a band? Because, we can't get... Alex Staropoli, we can't get him back in the band. So, like, it's just complicated. It's just a weird, complicated... It's like Yes. It's like trying to follow, like, who's in Yes and who's in Asia and who's in King Crimson. They're all, like, switching bands all the time. I like it, though. I like everything that Luca Turilli's done. Even the stuff that I'm like, I don't like it that much. It's like, it's still worth listening to, like, putting it on at least once, which is good. I'm trying to think... I don't remember what the name of the Turilli-Leone Rhapsody was. But it's a really good album. And then they toured as Rhapsody. In fact, I kind of want to look them up and see, like, what the hell's going on with Rhapsody right now. Yeah, Turilli-Leone Rhapsody is still around. What was this album called? Zero Gravity. Yeah, that was a cool album. I don't think they're still a band anymore, though. Following the conclusion of the Latin American tour in 2023, as their final tour, the band disbanded with an announcement prior to be closing this chapter of their career for good. Oh, man, that's sad. Alex Holsworth was in it. Patrick J. Gears. Is Rhapsody of Fire still around? Who's in the band? No one I recognize other than Alex Staropoli. Staropoli. Giacomo Voli is doing vocals for them. I haven't paid attention. Interesting. I feel like most of the band is missing in action. No Fabio, no Luca, no Holsworth. I don't know. That's too bad they can't keep it together. But, what are you going to do? And it's the same thing, like you have to evolve or you'll creatively stagnate. It's not like, it's really hard to just do the same thing forever. And it's really hard, like creatively, to like exercise your creative muscles and like do something you've already done before. It's actually hard. It's hard for me, at least. I'm always wanting to like push the envelope and do something different. That's how I've always operated, is like, what's the next thing? What's the next crazy thing I could do? I probably would be more successful if I just stuck to doing one thing. Like if I just wrote like sci-fi horror books, I'd probably be doing better financially than if I do what I do, which is follow my heart and write like fantasy books in an overbloated genre full of garbage. I gotta say, like, I'm really excited to release King Leper here. I'm really excited to release it on Amazon and to take a break from doing the whole indie author thing for a while. Next book I come out with is going to be, unless it's like the stuff that's on Patreon, right? Everything I write will be free on Patreon for the foreseeable future. Like all the new stuff that I write, members will get for free. But I just don't want to play the Amazon game anymore. I really hate it. And I think it's really fake. And I think the scene is really fake. So I'll be taking a step back after this Friday. I'll be gone. So Saturday, this is coming out. I mean, it's out now. You can order it, right? The ebook is dropping. And then I'm like, I'm going to be gone from the indie fiction world for a little while, okay? I won't have that much to do with it, and I won't be trying to release books. I won't be releasing content on like, I've done a lot of content on how to publish books. It's all there. I don't feel like I have really anything interesting to say anymore about that stuff. I feel like Amazon is that's a dead avenue for trying to make money in the publishing world as an independent person. Royal Road, I don't know. Maybe I'll experiment. Maybe I'll disappear. I don't know. But there's like this feeling of relief of like, I'm not going to have to do this anymore. I can choose not to do this. I can choose not to participate. I can choose not to play this stupid game and win stupid prizes. I'm still going to support this book, promote it, and it's a great book. And then I can think about, what's next, what I want to do next. Maybe I know I got to type some loose ends with the Zool improvisational projects. I did 100 improvs. I might do a live one right now. That's not what I wanted to watch. I wanted to hear more of my music. So I might record something live for you guys right now, and we'll do some takes, and you can see me back stuff up and try stuff again multiple times and see how that works. You might like it. And we'll have a little video at the end, which should be fun. So I might do that. I don't know what we'll do. Is it a standalone book or a sequel? Well, you can read it as either one. It's book 3 of Eternal Dream, but Eternal Dream is itself quite a hydra. And there's a lot of related books, but you can read it by itself just fine. So every book I write, it's not like there's no cliffhangers, or it concludes. The story ends at the end. The story from Water of Awakening and Needle Ash also have conclusions. So you can read Water of Awakening, you can read Needle Ash, you can read King Leper. That's 3 books. They're all great books, and I'm really excited about them. They're the books that I want to write, that I think the world needs. Rather than, Taken by the Alpha Werewolf Night, Volume 4. Recently Ryan Williamson was saying the short story compilations don't sell as well as novels. Is that true in your experience? Oh my goodness. I would never I would never publish a short story. He's completely correct. Ryan is dead on. They sell terribly. People hate short fiction. They don't hate it. Short fiction is unfortunately a dead art form. Now, I've done a lot of it. I've written a lot of short fiction. I've published a short fiction anthology, but the reason my short fiction anthology, and it still doesn't sell that well, right? It's Afterglow Generation Y. The reason it doesn't sell that well is because it's short fiction. It's not a novel. People, the market has gotten used to reading longer books. People don't order magazines anymore with short fiction. The market for short fiction died, and its remnants are being carried by very few people. You have Kursova is still publishing short fiction, and I don't have all of them, but I have a number of their volumes. And you'll find something surprising in those pages. But what do people get excited for? They don't get excited for the latest issue of Kursova, unfortunately, because he barely pays his bills. It's not a money-making endeavor to publish a magazine or any kind of short fiction compilation. In fact, you're probably going to lose money big time because the publisher's taking all the risk. The publisher's paying the writer for the story. The publisher is paying for the cover. They're paying for everything. Paying editing, sometimes they have to pay for everything up front. Then they have to make all their money on the back end. And who's buying them? They're not on newsstands anymore. You can't distribute them to anywhere. The market has moved on. What the market wants is a book. They want like a book. And they want the story in the book to be something that excites them and something they feel like they can get lost in a lot of cases. Why do people reread Harry Potter so much? It's because they can just get lost in Harry Potter's world and just enjoy it. That's what people want. They don't want short fiction anymore. You could say it's bad, it's good, whatever, doesn't matter. The point is that is a format that is pretty much impossible to make money in, with some exceptions, right? They're not exactly short fiction, they're short novels. People really like short novels to buy for like 99 cents or $3, and they can read them in 2 or 3 hours and have a great experience with the story and be done with it. So I mastered that format. That was something I set out to do, and then I did it. And so I wrote a bunch of these little shorter books. And I still have more sitting around that I could publish. And maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just make them free for Patreon people. I don't know. In my opinion, short fiction can only really work as YouTube videos that can be listened to within 40 minutes. Oh, I have some of those. I have some of those for you. Let me find one. I'll find one. I don't think it's members only yet. Yeah, it's not members only. I'm going to make it members only soon, but I'll... let me grab the link. Here you go. Here's some free short fiction for you. That's 48 minutes. So it's not within 40 minutes, but there you go. So yeah, there's no market for short fiction. And let's think about it from a business angle though, right? Like, so let's say I'm going to do a short fiction anthology. I'm going to get all of these authors to promote it because every author will have a story in the book. Every author is going to promote it. The thing is, not every author has an equal platform to promote it, nor do they want to. Once they get paid, do they have a strong incentive to do it? I promoted the hell out of one that I was in called Pulp Rock, which you can get that story for free on my Patreon. It's called Farewell to Once and Future Kings. It's another one of those shorter books. So maybe I'll just put it out on Amazon as like a standalone. That's something I could do. So maybe I'll do that. Do you think there's a significant... I'm going to get to that. I'll get to that. The problem is that doesn't work. And the reason is because let's say there's a fan of David Stewart. Hey, I have a story in this book. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to spend $10 on the book. And there's one thing on it I'm interested in. Whereas if I buy a whole book from you, then I know I'm going to be interested in all of it because I'm a fan of you. So it's actually a harder sell to all of those fans. Yeah, you think you're increasing your promotion network because all of the authors are in the book. But it doesn't work that way because of what I just said. The reader's like, well, I'm not completely interested in it because it's full of writers I don't know anything about. The other half of that is that it's short fiction, so the readers are inherently less interested in it because they want to read, they want an epic story, they want a big book. They've read nothing but long fiction their entire lives. Lots of people have only ever read short fiction as part of English class, so they don't really know anything about it or care anything about it. I've never read, even though Lovecraft is mostly free, they've never read it. They've never read Robert E. Howard or any of these other guys. You can read like half the Shadow novels by Walter B. Gibson for free. For free. Hardwick, do you think there's a significant difference in saleability between books compiling short stories all by the same author as compared to ones with stories by multiple authors? I do. I think it's easier to sell one all by the same author. And I think they would sell better. So just as an example, let's look at Pulp Rock. Let me get it because it's a great book and you guys can still buy it. I'll link it for you. Okay, I don't know where it is. Yeah, I'm not sure what I did with it. Maybe my wife was reading it. I'll link it for you. But, you can see here. Pulp Rock. I'm going to kind of go here. It has 12 ratings on Amazon. Okay, it's a good compilation. But it's been out for quite a while now. It came out in 2021, 2022. 2022. So it's been out for about 3 years. In those 3 years, it's only gotten 12 reviews or 12 ratings and a couple reviews. Whereas if it had just been one of my books, it would have like 40 reviews and probably have sold more. Why? One of my books is inside that book. There's a whole David Stewart book inside of Pulp Rock that you can read. It's like the longest story in there. It's a whole book. Alexander didn't cut it down at all. So there's a whole little mini spy novel, sci-fi spy novel in there by me. If I just put that out on its own, even with as bad as Amazon is now, it would probably sell better because my audience is more interested in just reading my thing. They would probably like the price point better because I put it out for $2.99. So they buy it at $2.99 and then it would get 20 reviews, maybe more, right? So yeah, the same author actually does better than multiple authors because you would think, okay, I have all these authors, so all of David Stewart's guys are going to buy a copy. And all of Alexander's guys all of these guys, everybody's people are going to buy a copy. But a lot of our audiences just overlap. And that's number one. Number two, they're just less interested. So what ends up happening is it's a small percentage of the people who normally just buy one of my books, buy that book because I'm in it. And that's the same for all of them. And that number ends up adding up to less than what maybe the best-selling author in the group like David J. West or me would just sell a book with, right? So it's probably just a losing proposition. I know Ryan Williamson did the Weird West thing, and David J. West, I think, is in that compilation. And he's a good author, and he sells a lot of books, and he knows how to promote stuff, and people would rather just buy a whole book by him. Or like one of his pen names, like James Allardyce. They'd rather just buy one of those. And it's kind of sad but true. So it would have been better. There would have been total more money made if every person released their story separately. Because you would have had much better buy through on each story and you could have sold each one for more money. I don't remember how much Alexander paid me for the story, but it's way less than I would have made just releasing the damn thing on my own. And I think I'm free to do that. By the way, I think I can just release it wide if I want to. I think the exclusivity has passed. So I could just do that if I want to. But I haven't, because I want there to be a reason for people to buy that product. And probably I had more, I have a lot of ability to promote my work compared to a lot of authors that don't have a big platform. And there still wasn't people super interested in buying the product. And I promoted it. I promoted the hell out of that. And I still don't think it got a lot of people to part with their hard-earned cash, unfortunately. Oops. I started recording in Ableton Live. Okay. No. We can do a little live recording though. What time is it? Oh, 7:50. Might be able to do that. For example, do books like J.D. Cowan's Star Wanderers, all written by him, sell better than pulp rock and such? I think they do. But it's hard to compare apples to oranges, because it'd be more like, so I think I already explained this. If it had just been me in the compilation, it would have sold better. If it had just been David J. West, if it had just been John De La Rose, it probably would have sold better. That's just how it is. It's unfortunate, but that's what we're dealing with. It's because the market is not interested in short fiction in general, and then when you have lots of authors mixed in, it doesn't add up. It actually adds up to less than the sum of its parts. It's unfortunate, but that's the way that it works. People want whole books. They want books. They want novels. They don't want short stories. But I write shorter novels, though, intentionally. This is not one. This is like 3 full-length novels. This is as long. I carefully formatted this so it is as long as you could possibly make a book of this size, like this trim size, and sell it on Amazon. Like Amazon print on demand, 550 pages for a hardback at least is the cutoff. Can't go past that. It's 550 pages on the dot. I made it so that it fit in there. But it's still really comfortable to read. Like, I can read it without my glasses. Great book. King Leopard. Buy it now. A novel doesn't have to be 500 pages, but some stories demand 500 pages or longer, right? So to get the entire story, there's three books in here, and I toyed with releasing it as 3 books. Like, if I was doing the indie author format, if I was doing the indie author format, it would actually be to break up all of these books into, every single one would be 3 books. So this would actually be like books like 6, 7, 8, 9. Right, what are the 3 books? Dead Man Living, Soulside Journey, and Leprous Ghost, aka Retrograde Inversion. I gave people a little hint as to the structure of the book by calling the 3rd book Retrograde Inversion. I'm not sure if people are going to understand that the book gets to a halfway point and then tells itself backwards, but that's for people who are a little bit more critically inclined. A novel doesn't have to be 500 pages long. Depends on the font size, obviously, but you get the point. Yeah. The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep is 200 to 250-ish pages. Neuromancer's a bit under 300 pages. Same with Starship Troopers. Yeah, these are all in the 50,000 word range. A great range for a book, actually. Ender's Game is about 60,000. 50 to 75,000, I think, is a really good length. Let me show you some books that I have that are exactly that length. This one. Nope, that one's longer. This one. All right, so I grabbed 3 nearby that were that length. So, Prophet of the Godseed. This is the original cover. I think it looks cool still. I think it still looks pretty cool. Prophet of the God Seed. About 55,000 words. All Shall Fall, that's about 60,000 words. Moonsong Part 3, Shadow and Smoke. It's about 65,000 words. It's starting to push 70. Book 4 is shorter. It's about 45,000. And then book 5 is longer. It's like 80,000. So they go up depending on how much story there is to tell. Because you don't want to artificially like push it out. That's actually my big criticism of the Brandon Sanderson books in Stormlight Archive. Is even though the story might be good, there are so many scenes that I've read from book 2 on. Book 2 and 3, I haven't read book 4 and 5. That I'm like, you didn't need this scene. This scene was superfluous. This scene just didn't need to be written. It didn't need to be in the book. Like, it reveals nothing, nothing moves forward, and it doesn't even describe anything that we need. You know, my reaction to Words of Radiance was, it was a 1,000-page book that, I'm just going to use pages, but because it was actually like 300,000 words or something, 350,000 words. It was a 1,000-page book that could have been told in 500 easily and not lost anything, not lost any of the meat of the story. There was whole little plot lines that just didn't need to happen. In my opinion, it felt like a slog. And part of it is that there's several different lines. It's a Robert Jordan curse. It's like you have this character's arc. This character is doing these things. This character is doing these things, and this character is doing these things, and this. So in the second book, we have like 4 or 5 main characters doing things. There's Adolin, there's Dalinar, there's Kaladin, there's Shallan, who I don't like, and then whoever her teacher was, whose name there's like 5. Plus like the Parshman girl. There's like 6 characters doing shit. And they all have their own little plot. So there's like 6 books squished into that one book. Whereas Tolkien is able to keep it a little under control by having the party that went to Minas Tirith and the party that went to Mordor. And like, you could maybe even leave one of those out. But yeah, you get the idea. So it goes on and on. Classic sci-fi and fantasy books were in the 50 to 75,000 word range. The old advice from the before times, from the long, long ago. Advice I got like in 1999 about how long should books be was, you're a new writer. Your first book shouldn't be over 75,000 words or it won't get published. Now it's like, if your book is less than 100,000 words, it won't get published. They want to publish doorstoppers because they have this idea that that's what the market wants, is these long books. At least they have for a while. Like, so I don't know. I don't know if the market actually wants long books at all. My instinct says probably not really. Probably not. But yeah, the classics were mostly like 50 to 75,000 words. You know, I mean, how many pages is that? How many pages is Prophet of the God Seed? 224. How many pages? Shadow and Smoke. 248 pages for that one. All right. We got about 20 more minutes. Why don't we record a track? Let's record a track, and then we'll say bye. Let's take a look. Let me show you the document that I'm going to build. I'm going to build the document live, and then we'll record something so we have something creative done besides just chatting with the audience. Okay. Let me see. How is this lining up? It's over here. Okay. All right. Okay. This is looking a little squished. I can probably... There we go. That looks a little better. Okay. Let's record on this Gibson. I have a pick. I have a couple picks here. All right. Oh, we gotta plug it in. Gotta plug the damn thing in. It's plugged into a mic preamp, so let's turn off the music as well. Where the heck is it? There it is. It's the rain track. All right. Okay. Now this is not going through, so let's go over to main. I'm going to drop a plugin here. Should be Restream. There we go. And we're going to go to send. Local broadcast. There you go. Now you should be able to hear it. Here we go. Why don't we put our camera up somewhere where we can kind of capture what the heck I'm doing here, huh? Put this up here so you can see me. What the heck am I doing here? See me over here? That's not enough of me. Where am I? There I am. Let's turn down the light a bit. Yeah, there's a good mood. All right, here's what it sounds like. Nothing on it. I can use this little decade switch here. This first little switch that clicks. Click, click, click. To get a cool sound here. Try. There we go. Sounds like an acoustic guitar. A little phasing. Need to tune it up here. We head over to our first channel. I have an amp set up, but I'm going to run only a couple of amp sims, and everything else is going to be no amp. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these plugins here. I might run this saturator, but I'm going to delete the cabinets. So this is what it sounds like without any of that stuff. That's what it sounds like. No amps. You don't need an amp with this guitar. Let's tune it up. Unfortunately, no robo tuners on this one. They are good tuners, though. Grover style tuners. Now, should we run with some synths too? see this, or I don't know what's better. Like have it over there. That's another option. Like I could put the camera like over here, like that. I don't know. What do you guys think looks better? Should I have it on the edge of the TV over here? So it's like looking down upon me and my synths. Or is it better from the other angle where like, you know, hey. Or is it better from the other angle? You can also just turn this light off. Oh, I missed some chat here. I don't write anything that isn't at least 1,000 pages. What if digital was individual stories, but hardback was the entire anthology? Interesting. David Stewart, what's your best-selling book? City of Silver. It's either City of Silver or Prophet of the Godseed. I don't mind some movies being 2.5 hours long. Take Lord of the Rings, for example, but sometimes you just want something a bit shorter. It just depends on the story. You know, The Worm Ouroboros by E.R. Edison is an audiobook. 17.5 hours is one single novel. Sounds like it. I like that link for a book that's pretty quick to read, but still tells a full, satisfying story. Do you know off the top of your head how long Muramasa is? I thought that was a good link. That's 120,000 words-ish. Sanderson loves to pad the word count. I think he doesn't have an editor. And I can also tell you that, like, scenes are written pretty inefficiently, too. There's just a lot of little actions that don't mean anything that happen in a lot of his scenes in Stormlight Archive. Not so much in all of his other books, per se, but definitely in that one. Stormlight Archives is a bad example. Malazan's a good example of a book that needed to be as long as it was. Yeah, I like Malazan stuff. All the sci-fi books I mentioned are all between 60 and 85,000 words. That's a good length. Okay. We can do a little EQ here. Let me see. A little bit more here. A little bit less there. There we go. All right, so let's take a look at our document we have here. Sorry, I'm missing some of the chat. Where was I? Receive audio. Okay. Let's take a look at our document. So here's our document. I have this. It's just completely dry. So I think I'm gonna just get rid of that one. We don't need that one. We don't need like a dry audio channel. We have the first one, no amp. Second one, no amp. Let's pan those. We're going to pan one left and one right. So then we have a third one which has an amp. It's clean. You can see how much the amp actually colors the sound here. I'm actually going to change that sound just a bit here. I can also turn on like a high output mode to get something a little more sounds more like a regular traditional electric guitar. Turn down the presence a bit, that high mids. It's a little warmer. And a bit more bass. Yeah. Gonna pull that kind of twinginess out. Even on... kind of twangy sound. That'll work though. Let's see here. Let's turn our... What's my speed? I want my speed way lower. Let's try 65. Yeah, there we go. And this one. I want a little bit different here. 2 and 4. And this one. Just a little... Oh, he's... I don't think I'm going to use that. I don't think I'm going to use that one. Listen to all that noise. It cuts it down a bit. It's a good sound. Have you worked in parallel processing? I'm just exploring it and I hope it's worth it. It depends because what I'm doing here, I don't need to do a lot of that because I'm running like 8 tracks at once. So I have a swell, no amp. I don't know if I'll use this, this like dirty amp, dirty. I don't know if I'll use that sound. There's no amp on this. This one has an amp. So I like that. We got those panned. I don't know if I'll use the dirty one. Let's add another audio track here. This one already comes kind of with like a, I guess my default audio track is this Vox AC30 sound. I don't know how I set that up, but that's what it is. 3, that's my mic preamp. What do I want to do for this one? First of all, these should both be higher. These are swells. And we need like gargantuan amounts of reverb and delay for these. Like way higher. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to make this one a bass. And actually, you know what? I think I probably have a bass already set up on another thing here. Let me look in my templates. Do I have bass? I have a drone. I'm going to pull a drone out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, there's 8 tracks. I do want a bass sound. Let me see if I have a bass somewhere. And, you know, I can add a synth sound to it, but I think it'd be fun to just do guitar. Like, let's just do guitar. I'm an octave. Maybe the rain. Does the rain have a bass? My comment deleted, George. I have to get back to you on that. What? Bass. I'm guessing this uses... Okay, this uses amplitude, which I don't want to use. I'll just set up a new one. I'll just set up a new bass. Pretty simple. We'll make this bass. And let's go to audio effects. pitch. Shifter. Is this it? Let's find out. Little lag there. There you go. Now we can also turn off the cabinet and stuff here too. Hear what that sounds like without any of the extra stuff here. Okay. Oh, no, we need number 2 here. No. 3. There we go. You can pick up every little thing with this one. Okay. I think we're ready to rock here. What do you guys think of the camera angle? Is it better up in the corner? Or is it better? I think it's better, maybe better right here. Kind of like pointed down at the synths and stuff. I don't know. I don't know what's a good angle to try to like even get me in here. I feel like this is going to be a better angle overall because gonna get over here. Let's see. Now I would do like a parallel chain with this, like with a lower octave. So I may actually do, let me put a shifter here. And we'll do 12 steps. It's an octave. No. 12. No. -12. Come on. There you go. Okay. Then we'll do like 17% dry. There we go. Perfect. All right. Wait, you like this corner or the other corner? They're both in the corner. Let's see what I'm doing here. This way, like the push is huge. Yeah, all of these are actually using, so all of these sins, they're using, that's all technically parallel processing. Actually, I'm going to add an interesting reverb here. Let me show you what I'm going to add here. We're going to add a, oops, wrong thing. Add a return track. So these are all return tracks. I'm going to rename this, let me find what I'm looking for here. Audio effects. It's going to be... It's something weird here. Let me find it. There you go. It's under packs. What the heck is it? You know what? I have it under my templates again. Just get one of the return tracks out of here. Actually, let's get both of them. So I have a shimmer and a vector delay. So check this out. We'll put vector delay in here. Let's delete that. And we'll put a shimmer in here. So the shimmer is just running like a big sky emulator, basically. The vector is going to make it's going to be like random. So, you know, we can get some really crazy stuff here. You maybe can't see everything, but let me pull it out, pull this out a little bit so you can see these return tracks since they're pretty crazy. Okay, so the shimmer, we actually want the delay to feed into the reverb. We want the delay to feed into the shimmer for sure. We want the vector delay to feed into the reverb. We want the vector delay to feed into the shimmer. Delay into shimmer. And no, we don't want that one. We want this one. Fine. Yes. Okay. That's good. That's what we want. And then we need to turn it up here so we get like some really craziness. Check this out. Yeah. There we go. So we'll get some cool sounds here. I do want like a lot of the stuff here to just be kind of feeding in, and I don't know if I'm going to use this dirty amp. I think I'm going to delete that. Let's pick like one. We can do another swell track, or I don't know what. The bass should be pretty clean, so I like to keep that clean. But the swells should be big. The swells should be big. Lots of shimmer on the swells and on the drone. And, whoops. Don't know how that happened. I didn't click anything. How did that happen? Maybe I hit the spacebar on accident. Okay, so those are all good. Now the reverb I have here is a pretty normal reverb. Let's pick a cooler reverb. Let's go. Let's get a convolution reverb sound in here. Let's see what we got here. I got a Reverb Pro. Let's drop that in and pop that off. 100%. Let's go split. We have an early and a late. And let's do something cool. Deserted employee bathroom. St. Albans Cathedral 1. And then for the late, we can do Swedish nuclear reactor, St. Paul's Hall, Far. Okay, there we go. Let's listen to that. Rad. All right, let's record some. Somebody send me a message. My buddy Daryl. Let's put that on Do Not Disturb. I'm going to kill the mic when I do this recording. I only have 7 tracks, so let's pick a cool synth. Let's find a cool synth to put in here that we think will be fun to go along with this. Something with like a little expression here. Get that book off the keyboard. Let's see. Is there anything that's like cinematic? There you go. What do we have here? Multi-sampled. I don't want an acoustic sound. I want something weird. No. Angelic choir. Oh, you can't see what I'm scrolling through here. Hold on. Boop, 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 boop. I'm going to turn this on so that I can be seen. Just like not brightly. Also, this is just not showing me. The camera keeps turning away. I can fix that. There's like a little screw on the bottom. I can crank that down so that it is visible. I can turn invisible. Run away. Disappear before your eyes. Is it going to stay up there? Hold on. There we go. Yeah, we'll change our, let's mess with our settings here a little bit. Hopefully this doesn't crash my computer because I'm using my old camera. Here, you know what else I can do here is I can like have a little light on my face. This looks so weird the way it is right now. That's too much. Let's do it this way. That's better, right?